The 2027 FIBA World Cup is a year and a half away, which seems like so long from now. But if you're anything like me, that means trying to predict the roster this far in advance. The USA hasn't podiumed in over a decade, since 2014, and so they'll be eager to bring their best talent and really show out in this competition. The player pool and pipeline for the USA is the healthiest it's been in a very long time. So picking just 12 guys to represent an entire country is such a hard thing to do. But let's give it a shot. Now, to get an idea of how USA will put together their roster, I referenced some teams of the past. So the 2019 and 2023 World Cup teams. These teams placed 7th and 4th respectively, which is disappointing by all standards. But despite their underperformance, I think they could still give us some good insights on how the 2027 team may look. With the 2027 team, I tried to replicate some of the patterns that I saw in the 2019-2023 teams. So I built out a list of criteria that I used. And most importantly is the roster construction. And by this I mean how many guards, forwards, and bigs are going to be typically used on this roster. I imagine they'll stay pretty consistent with their 5 guard, 5 forward, and 2 big strategy that we've seen in the past. And so this was kind of my baseline on how I built the roster. Number 2 here is the average age of the roster. World Cup rosters for the USA tend to trend a little bit younger than Olympic rosters do, and the USA basketball system tends to act as more of a tryout for some of the guys that are looking to compete in the Olympics. So think of guys like Anthony Edwards and Tyrese Halliburton. This is exactly what they did. Now, the sweet spot we're looking for here is somewhere between 24 and 26 years old. Next one here is play style and identity. Every country has their own unique play style and their own unique identity of how they play. And Team USA is no different. The only thing that sort of differentiates them from other teams is they don't have time to develop the chemistry and familiarity with their teammates like other countries do. And so they rely on some other advantages, namely their athleticism, pace of play, and switchability on defense. And these are the core pillars that we're looking for in the majority of the guys that are going to be on this roster. Lastly, there were a few other things, sort of a catch-all bucket, that I lightly factored into my analysis. And these include things like average height. So this is just to make sure that I don't have too many undersized guards on the team or too many big men that aren't mobile enough. So that was the first thing. Another one is past FIBA involvement. So this is both on the youth side, so maybe looking for guys that have represented internationally but not for the senior team yet, which I'll mention a couple of guys that have done that, but also in former World Cups and Olympics too. And I think on this, it's more of the opposite end, as where guys who have represented for World Cup teams and Olympic teams tend to not go back and represent on another World Cup team. So kept that in mind when I was building out this roster. And finally is just vibes. Do they feel like an international player? Do they feel like they belong on a global stage? Now with all that, let's dive in. I'll start by mentioning that this team is going to be coached by Erik Spoelstra, and this is the only known thing right now. We don't know a single player on the roster, but we do know that Erik Spoelstra will be coaching these guys. He's taking the reins from Steve Kerr, and honestly, I love this pick by USA Basketball. Erik Spoelstra has been involved in USA Basketball in the past, and players respect him, and he brings a winning culture to this environment. So I'm excited to see what he can do in 2027. Now, the way I'm going to review my roster isn't by best player to worst player or guards to bigs or anything like that. It's going to be how confident I am that they're actually going to be on the roster in 2027. So first and foremost, we've got Cooper Flagg. This is the most obvious pick for the team, and I'm not a gambling man, but I would put a lot of money on the fact that Cooper Flagg is going to be on this team in 2027. He was chosen to be on the USA Olympic Select team as a high schooler, going up against guys like LeBron and Curry and AD as a 17-year-old. That's just ridiculous. He fits the system super well. He's incredibly switchable, very athletic, and I have a feeling that Grant Hill and the USA Basketball Organization will keep getting Flagg involved in FIBA events for the foreseeable future. They've already shown interest up to this point. Second one, and I think this one is a near lock as well, Chet Holmgren. He kind of seems like a no-brainer to me. He was the U19 World Cup MVP for Team USA, where he battled against Wemby, and that's kind of where their rivalry began. His interior defense and rim protection are highly coveted skills in FIBA play, and he'll cause mismatch nightmares for opposing countries. I can't wait to see him debut for the senior national team. The third player here, who I'm also very confident that is going to be on the roster, is Jalen Duren. And he's a first-year All-Star, just continues to get better every single year in the NBA. His defense has taken a big jump this year, and his athleticism is just top tier. I think he'll work very well with some of the guards you see later on this roster. He's probably the best American rebounder at the moment, and his rebounding ability is one of the main reasons why I'm certain he'll be on this team. The 2023 team could not rebound the ball to save their life. Josh Hart and Anthony Edwards were the leading rebounders on that squad, which just blows my mind. Jaren Jackson Jr. was not a good rebounder, and so I think that Grant Hill and the other guys at USA Basketball are going to be looking for somebody that can grab a ton of boards. I also think that Duren will complement Chet incredibly well and is exactly what the team needs. I'm excited to see how those two play off of each other. Number 4 here is Jalen Williams from the OKC Thunder. He brings that championship experience. He's exceptional on both ends of the floor. He's just hyper efficient when scoring the ball, and he can be played in so many different lineups. I would expect Spoelstra to use Williams a lot in off-ball actions and as a secondary facilitator. Moving on here to the 5th player is Kon Knueppel. And this one is very surprising, but he's just simply lights out. I think he is a top 10 shooter in the world right now and would fill a similar role to Austin Reeves in what he did last year. But I think Kon could actually be better than Reeves was in that type of scoring, shooting type of role. I think he's a better defender than Reeves, and he won't get targeted as heavy on defense. And he also doesn't need the ball in his hands necessarily to be effective. He's just a perfect role player, and that's why I'm pretty confident that he'll be on the squad. Next, we've got our lead point guard, Cade Cunningham. Also a U19 gold medal winner. He's arguably a top 10 player in the world right now. This team will definitely lean on his playmaking and scoring to generate offense. Kemba Walker and Jalen Brunson served as the captains for their World Cup teams, and Cade will look to do the same at even a higher level than those guys did. Cade is one of the players that I think is trying out for the Olympic squad, like I mentioned earlier, and I expect him to adapt to the international game seamlessly, the way he reads the floor and finds his open teammates. The 7th guy here is Scottie Barnes, and he is just the perfect archetype for the USA system. He's long, he's athletic, he's switchable. He'll work super well alongside J-Dub and Cooper Flagg. And this is one of just my vibes picks. He just feels like an international basketball player. He's very similar to Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson on the 2023 roster, and I suspect he'll play a very similar role. Next, we've got Evan Mobley, and he's incredibly switchable, just such a great defender. He can play in bigger lineups when necessary, and he's very similar to Jaren Jackson Jr. on that 2023 roster, just in his ability to fit in a handful of different lineups. But he's such an improvement in rebounding and positioning and discipline. He'll stay out of foul trouble, but bring that elite defense that Jaren Jackson Jr. brought. And so I can't wait to see him on this roster. Number 9 here is Tyrese Maxey. And Maxey has just been on the rise ever since he joined the NBA. He is an electric scorer that any team can lean on, whether it be in the NBA or on international competition. He's so shifty. He's so quick. He also gives you something that your big switchable wings don't necessarily provide, and that's rim pressure from the guard spot. He can finish super well inside, but he can also drive inside, collapse the defense, and find an open shooter on the wing. And I would love to see him on the international stage. I think he's maybe a little less likely just because he's on the shorter side and there's just a ton of guard options, so he might not make the final cut, but I would love to see him on this roster. Next, we've got Amen Thompson, and from here on, these picks are a little shaky in my eyes. Amen Thompson is a top 3 athlete on the planet and just an absolute menace on the defensive end of the floor. His speed and verticality will be impossible for international guards to stay in front of, and I'd expect a super impressive highlight reel from Amen all throughout this tournament. Now, the reason I'm uncertain on him, though, is he's expressed interest in representing the Jamaican national team, and the way FIBA works is once you've represented one country in international competitions, you're sort of locked in to that country. Now, if he were to represent Jamaica, he'd be locked into Jamaica, and he wouldn't be able to play on Team USA moving forward. Team USA does offer him more opportunity to play on the global stage, both in the Olympics and World Cup, which Jamaica hasn't qualified to either. But I do understand his family ties to Jamaica, and then a small reason I could also see him being excluded is just his lack of shooting. Shooting is so important on the international stage, and the USA system may opt for other guys that can just shoot the ball a little bit better. Now, my second to last guy here is Anthony Edwards. Many of you may be asking why Ant is so uncertain for me. He should be top of the list, right? But I'm worried he might just be an Olympics-only guy moving forward. He was the best player for Team USA in 2023 and played very well in the Olympics in Paris. And I included him here because he seems to love representing Team USA and is also just so competitive that I feel like he'll want redemption from that fourth place finish last time around. We'll see if he ends up playing, but this would be such a great ad for the Team USA team. Now, my last pick is Jalen Johnson. I love Jalen Johnson so much, and he is ridiculously talented. If you haven't tuned into any Hawks games this year, watch some Jalen Johnson highlights. You're going to be blown away. He stuffs the stat sheet and is exactly the kind of wing that would put up numbers in the World Cup. Now, I do think his skill set kind of overlaps with some of the other forwards on the roster, and almost every other USA roster includes one or two veterans, and I think Johnson would probably be the first to go in my eyes. And if I were to pick which veterans are going to be on the roster instead of Jalen Johnson, my guesses would be Aaron Gordon or Naz Reid, or maybe both. So if Jalen Johnson doesn't make the cut, those are my veteran guys that I'm including here. So there we have it. That's all 12 guys. And this exercise was impossible, and there are dozens of different roster iterations that you could put together that would make sense and would be successful. Here's the 30-player player pool that I selected from, and I wouldn't be surprised if any of the guys on this list made the final cut. Let me know if you think that there's somebody that was left off of this list that I'm forgetting or would be a good fit for this roster. And also leave a prediction in the comments on what you think the roster is going to look like. And then finally, if you live outside of the US and want me to predict your country's World Cup roster, let me know. I think that would be a really fun exercise. With that being said, thanks for watching. I've been Jake with the Global Hoops View, and I'll see you guys next time.